Hello, my name is Daniel Paetkau, and I will be graduating with a bachelor's degree with a major in English literature. At CMU, I have been introduced to the literary tradition, and as G.K. Chesterton once said, tradition is the democracy of the dead. To me, this means that reading is an active conversation with those that have gone before. With that in mind, I would like to briefly mention a few of the figures I have been introduced to while studying here. I would also like to use the category of sin to describe these figures, not out of judgment or malice, but simply because these figures represent a few common attitudes towards not simply sin, but an even stranger and more otherworldly idea, grace. The first sinner I will mention is Captain Ahab, from Herman Melville's Moby Dick. I was introduced to this work by Professor Sue Sorensen in the dauntingly titled Impossible Books course. Ahab is one of literature's most enthusiastic and driven sinners, and is a good idea of everything one should not do as a Christian. One interesting feature of Ahab is his propensity for what I call inverse sacraments. Rather than use a sacred process to worship God, he uses them for his own ends. Tempering a spear by stabbing a crew member is one such inverse sacrament, which shows, by its gory and uncomfortable nature, how low Ahab is sunk. Clearly, he has no time for grace, and the apocalyptic ending of Melville's text is reminiscent of the book of Revelation. Apocalypsis is the Greek word for revelation or knowledge, and it is at the heart of Dante's Divine Comedy, which I read with Chris Hubner. The pilgrim, presumably Dante, travels through hell, purgatory, and paradise in search of grace, but also, and quite surprisingly, his first crush, Beatrice. I can honestly say that this is the work I read at CMU that had the largest personal impact on me. This impact is derived largely from the poem's expansive and vast portrait of the Christian afterlife. I saw parts of my own life reflected in the poem, as well as reflections of those around me, and indeed the relationship of this life with the afterlife was a challenging aspect of the work, as growing up I had been influenced by a more separate, Platonic vision of heaven and hell. Even saying heaven and hell is evidence of the fact that I don't, as a rule, I was not raised to believe in purgatory. As such, purgatory was a shock to my Anabaptist years and made me consider atonement as an active process rather than just simply you're given. I also never quite thought about the relationship between the classical world and the Christian world, and the ethereal space of heaven brought this to the fore. The extremely overwhelming nature of Dante's heavenly experience is moving, to say the least, and it is one I am truly grateful for. I am grateful to all the CMU faculty who have taught me and introduced me to such wild and different sinners. Through the reading, study, and analysis of these characters, I have not only formed a picture of sin, but moreover, a picture of grace. This picture is further defined by G.K. Chesterton's The Man Who Was Thursday, which I read with Paul Dick. This Man Who Was Thursday taught me that grace sometimes comes in the strangest form of all. An anarchist and a dynamiter, everything you would never expect God to be. And yet, in the space of this thin novel, Chesterton greatly sums up much of what I have learned here at CMU. The strange and wonderful nature of grace that delights and instructs more than sin ever could. Admittedly, I am unsure how to end this speech, both because Dante taught me not to trust beginnings and endings, and because my faculty advisor, Paul Dick, said that he would kill me if I used a platitude such as learning experience. Therefore, to conclude, I will simply read the lines Dante writes as he experiences the Godhead in heaven in the Empyrean, and I offer these words as a prayer to you. Like the geometer who fully applies himself to square the circle, and for all his thought cannot discover the principle he lacks, such was I at that strange new sight. I tried to see how the image fit the circle, and how it found its where in it. But my wings had not sufficed for that, had not my mind been struck by a bolt of lightning that granted what I asked. Here my exalted vision lost its power, but now my will and my desire, like wheels revolving with an even motion, were turning with the love that moves the sun and all the other stars. Thank you.